Welcome to the History AI podcast, where the past comes alive with facts, anecdotes, and a dash of humor. Here are your hosts, Chuck and Marco.
Welcome to the History AI podcast. I'm Chuck.
And I'm Marco. Today, we're diving into the fascinating Battle of Watling Street, a pivotal moment in ancient history.
That's right, Marco. But before we get into the nitty-gritty, let's set the scene. It's the 1st century AD, and the Roman Empire is at its peak.
The Romans, known for their military might and strategic prowess, are expanding their empire, and Britain is their latest target.
Enter Queen Boudica, the fierce leader of the Iceni tribe, who's not about to let her land go without a fight. The stage is set for a clash of epic proportions. So Marco, let's delve into the strategy behind the Battle of Watling Street. The Roman planning was critical to their success.
Absolutely, Chuck. Governor Suetonius, an experienced military leader, knew he was up against a massive rebellion. Boudica had rallied not just the Iceni but also neighboring tribes, amassing a force some historians estimate to have been over 100,000 strong.
That's a huge number. The Romans, on the other hand, had a significantly smaller force. Estimates suggest around 10,000 troops, primarily composed of the 14th Legion, parts of the 20th Legion, and auxiliaries.
Right. Suetonius's plan hinged on choosing the right battlefield. He needed a location that would neutralize the numerical advantage of the Britons.
And he found just that. Suetonius chose a narrow gorge with a forest behind him. This prevented Boudica's forces from outflanking the Romans and forced them into a narrow front, perfect for the Roman style of combat.
A brilliant tactical move. Meanwhile, Boudica's strategy was driven by sheer numbers and momentum. She aimed to overwhelm the Romans with a frontal assault, trusting in the sheer passion and number of her warriors.
Exactly, and the psychological aspect was also key. Suetonius had to keep his men disciplined and focused, despite being heavily outnumbered.
And let's not forget logistics. The Roman army needed to be well supplied and ready for prolonged combat. Suetonius ensured his troops had ample provisions and were well rested before the battle.
On the other side, Boudica's forces were fueled by a sense of revenge and liberation. Her speeches, as recorded by historians, inspired her troops with a fiery passion for freedom and retribution against Roman oppression.
It was a clash of two starkly different approaches: Roman military discipline and strategy against the raw, passionate might of the Britons.
A true test of might and mettle. And that sets us up for the dramatic confrontation that was the Battle of Watling Street.
Now, let's immerse ourselves in the day of the battle, Chuck. The stage is set, and the two forces are about to collide.
Early morning, the Roman troops, heavily outnumbered, form up in a narrow gorge. Suetonius arranges them in a tight formation, with auxiliary cohorts on the flanks and cavalry at the rear.
The Romans are known for their disciplined formations, the testudo, or the tortoise formation, being one of them. Imagine shields interlocked, creating a near-impervious wall.
Meanwhile, Boudica's forces, teeming with energy and anger, gather in an open field, ready to charge. The Britons were less organized, but their sheer numbers and the ferocity of their chariots were daunting.
The battle commences with Boudica's war chariots charging, trying to break the Roman lines. The noise, Chuck, must have been deafening, the clash of weapons, the war cries.
But the Romans stand firm. Their discipline holds against the initial onslaught. Then, Suetonius gives the signal, and the Roman infantry steps forward in unison, thrusting their spears.
It's a critical moment. The Roman javelins, the pilum, cause havoc among the Britons. The dense formation of the Britons becomes a disadvantage, making them easy targets.
And then, the Roman cavalry makes a decisive move. They flank the Britons, attacking from the sides. This was classic Roman tactics, disciplined, strategic, and brutally efficient.
The Britons find themselves trapped, unable to retreat due to their own large numbers. The narrowness of the battlefield, chosen so astutely by Suetonius, turns into a death trap for Boudica's army.
The battle turns into a massacre. The Romans, methodical in their approach, cut down the Britons. It's said that the Romans lost only a few hundred men, while the Britons suffered heavy casualties, possibly in the tens of thousands.
It's a stark reminder of how critical strategy and terrain are in warfare. The Romans, despite being outnumbered, used their superior tactics and discipline to devastating effect.
A tragic end for Boudica's rebellion. This battle not only quashed the uprising but also marked the beginning of a long period of Roman dominance in Britain. Now, let's shift our focus to the heroes of the Battle of Watling Street. These were individuals whose actions left an indelible mark on the course of the battle.
Absolutely, Chuck. When we talk about heroes, we often think of leaders, but it's also the soldiers, the unnamed many, who displayed extraordinary courage.
First up, Governor Suetonius Paulinus. A Roman general known for his military acumen. His decision to choose the narrow gorge for the battlefield was a stroke of tactical genius.
Suetonius's leadership under pressure was remarkable. He managed to keep his outnumbered troops disciplined and focused, a key factor in their unlikely victory.
On the Briton side, Queen Boudica herself. A hero not just for her role in this battle but for her status as a symbol of resistance against Roman occupation.
Her leadership, rallying various tribes together for a common cause, was extraordinary. Boudica's fierce determination and her ability to inspire her people were truly heroic.
And let's not forget the average Iceni warrior.
These warriors fought with a passionate belief in their cause, a desire for freedom and revenge against Roman oppression. Their heroism was in their unwavering spirit in the face of a formidable enemy.
Lastly, we should remember the unnamed Roman soldier. Each man part of a larger machine, but still individuals showing incredible discipline and courage.
They weren't just fighting for the glory of Rome. For many, it was about survival, camaraderie, and the bond formed in the heat of battle.
These heroes give us a window into the human elements of this historic battle.
And they remind us that behind every historical event, there are stories of individual bravery and sacrifice. Following the decisive battle at Watling Street, the aftermath and the wider impact on both Roman and Briton societies were profound. Let's unpack this, Chuck.
Absolutely, Marco. The immediate aftermath saw a massive shift in power dynamics. The crushing defeat of Boudica's forces led to a significant weakening of the Briton tribes' resistance against Roman rule.
This victory solidified Roman control over Britain. It marked the end of major tribal opposition in the region, leading to a period of relative peace and stability under Roman governance.
But it wasn't just about military conquest, was it, Marco? The Romans implemented a series of administrative and cultural changes that fundamentally altered the landscape of Britain.
Right, Chuck. Romanization began in earnest. This involved the introduction of Roman law, customs, architecture, and even language. Towns like Londinium, modern-day London, were rebuilt and developed into thriving Roman cities.
And let's talk about the societal changes. The Roman influence seeped into every aspect of British life, from the construction of roads and aqueducts to the introduction of Roman education and religion.
However, the victory came at a cost. The Roman historian Tacitus mentions harsh reprisals against the Britons following the battle. There were instances of severe brutality, which, while securing Roman control, also left a legacy of resentment among the native population.
That's an important point. The Roman victory, while complete, sowed the seeds of long-term discontent and resistance to Roman rule in some pockets of Britain.
On the flip side, the Battle of Watling Street elevated Suetonius's status as a military commander. However, his later actions, which some saw as overly harsh, eventually led to his recall to Rome.
The defeat also marked a tragic end to Boudica's uprising. While she did not survive the rebellion, her legacy endured. Boudica became a symbol of resistance and national identity, particularly in Victorian times, and remains an iconic figure in British history.
And let's not forget the psychological impact, Chuck. The battle demonstrated the might of the Roman military machine, but it also highlighted the bravery and resilience of the Britons, a narrative that has been romanticized in history and literature.
In the grand scheme, the Battle of Watling Street was a defining moment in the Roman conquest of Britain, shaping the course of British history for centuries to come.
It's a story of conquest and resistance, of cultural integration and conflict, that echoes through the ages. The legacy of the Battle of Watling Street extends far beyond the immediate aftermath, shaping the historical, cultural, and political landscape of Britain and the Roman Empire. Let's explore this in more detail, Chuck.
Absolutely, Marco. First and foremost, the battle had a lasting impact on the Roman occupation of Britain. It effectively marked the end of major resistance to Roman rule, paving the way for nearly 4 centuries of Roman influence in British affairs.
This influence was profound. Romanization, as we touched upon earlier, introduced new systems of governance, law, and infrastructure. Britain saw the construction of roads, forts, and towns, many of which laid the foundations for modern British cities.
Architecturally, Britain was transformed. Roman baths, amphitheaters, and villas became commonplace. The Roman town planning principles are still evident in the layout of many British towns and cities.
Economically, the integration into the Roman Empire brought changes too. Britain was drawn into the vast Roman trade network, connecting it to the rest of the empire and beyond. This had a significant impact on the British economy, agriculture, and industry.
Culturally, the Roman legacy is undeniable. The Latin language influenced Old English, and many Roman customs and practices were adopted by the Britons. However, it's important to note that this was not a one-way process. The Romans also adopted some aspects of Briton culture.
Right, Chuck. Now, let's talk about the military legacy. The battle demonstrated the effectiveness of Roman military tactics, particularly their ability to win against overwhelming odds. The Roman emphasis on discipline, training, and organization became a blueprint for future armies.
Absolutely. And the psychological legacy shouldn't be underestimated. For the Romans, the victory reinforced their belief in their military superiority and divine right to rule. For the Britons, while it was a crushing defeat, it also became a symbol of resistance and the struggle for freedom.
Boudica's rebellion, especially, took on a legendary status. She became a national heroine, a symbol of the fight against oppression. In the 19th and 20th centuries, she was celebrated in art, literature, and as a feminist icon.
And finally, the educational legacy. The Battle of Watling Street is a key topic in the study of Roman Britain. It's a case study in military strategy, leadership, and the complexities of empire.
In summary, the legacy of Watling Street is multifaceted. It's a story of military conquest, cultural transformation, and enduring symbolism. It's a chapter in history that continues to fascinate and inform us to this day.
A battle that resonates through the centuries, reminding us of the complexities of history and the enduring human spirit. That's all for today. Thanks for tuning into the History AI podcast.
Don't forget to rate, follow, and share our podcast. And if you have a topic you'd like us to cover, let us know on social media.
Until next time, keep exploring history. From the mind behind the History AI podcast comes an electrifying journey into the past. A ripple through time, Franklin's Folly. Dive into a tale where Benjamin Franklin, America's beloved inventor, takes an unexpected journey through time. But with his leap, he unleashes a powerful ripple. Now, with dark forces lurking in the shadows, harnessing this energy to shatter and enslave the world, it's a race against time. Will Franklin fix the future? Or will history rewrite itself? Uncover the secrets. A ripple through time, Franklin's Folly. Time has never been more fragile. On Amazon now.